Mr. Talarico, for what purpose?
Does the gentleman yield for some questions?
Gentleman yield for questions.
Yes.
Gentleman yield.
Thank you, Representative Toth. And our time ran out a second ago. So I just wanted to clarify from you for the body what this amendment does. So on the third page of your bill, if you have it in front of you,
Yes, sir.
it says a teacher, administrator, or other employee of a school district may not require or make part of a course the concept that, and then...
Representative, what line are you on? I apologize. I just want to follow along with you.
That's okay. I'm on line 9 and 10 on page 3. So a teacher may not require or make part of a course the concept that, and then we get your amendment, right? That's where your amendment comes in? Are you looking? Well, no, it's right here. Required. Yes. Yes. Mr. Toth.
Representative, I'd like to, I've forgotten, we're still on the amendment, so let's stay on the amendment.
Yes, sir. I was wanting to clarify where the amendment goes. And this is not a gotcha question. I'm just trying to clarify. So it falls under that part of the bill, right? A teacher may not require or make part of a course the concept that, and then we get this amendment, right?
Right, correct.
Okay, so a teacher can't make a course that talks about racism as anything other than a deviation, betrayal, a failure of the authentic principles of the United States at its founding, right?
Would you like to use stronger language?
Say it again?
Would you like to use stronger language?
No. I'd like to use honest language.
Okay, would you like to use stronger, more honest language?
Representative Toth, your bill, lengthy bill about civics, makes no effort to teach the history of racism or white supremacy and its impact on the founding of our country, politically, socially, economically. The only thing you're doing is preventing us from talking about race in a way that makes you uncomfortable. Is that what this amendment is doing?
No, sir.
I'm just trying to read the amendment, and you want to make sure if a teacher's going to talk about racism, not that they should, but if they do,
they should talk about racism.
They better say it was inauthentic. We didn't mean it. We didn't mean it, right? At the founding of the country, it was a mistake. We feel bad and we regret it, right? Sweep it under the rug as quickly as possible. That's the goal of this amendment.
No.
It's not?
No.
But defend yourself. Defend this amendment.
Do you have a question?
My question is this amendment trying to prevent teachers from talking about racism and white supremacy as a critical part of the founding of our country and being honest about that fact with our students?
Actually,
and I say that as an educator.
Okay. Actually, this amendment is about making sure that history is taught and not a journalistic, creative story that someone came up with.
Before we got gavelled out a second ago, you did say that white supremacy exists, that it existed at the founding of the country, that the economic institution of slavery, that the Three-Fifths Compromise were white supremacist concepts and pieces of policy. So do you think that was inauthentic? Do you think our founders, do you think these systems that were put in place, do you think they were inauthentic? That seems to be what your amendment is saying. That they didn't mean it?
It's not what the amendment says.
So do you think
it's a failure? It says it's a failure. It says we were flawed. It says it was a betrayal.
But it wasn't a betrayal at the time. It's a betrayal now looking back.
The founding of our nation was all about. It was a
betrayal. It seems like you're trying to Photoshop history.
It was a failure at the time.
Mr. Toth. The point is that it wasn't a betrayal at the time.
Yeah.
It was intentional at the time. It was
Representative,
purposeful
I'm actually reading
at the time.
from the amendment. You're interjecting words that are not in this amendment.
Right. Mr. Toth, your amendment is the same as the rest of your bill, which is a whitewashing of history. It's shielding our students from the truth about the founding of our country. And the only way for students to develop a true patriotism, a true love of country, not a puppy love, not a crush on America, to develop a true love of country means you have to accept every part of our history, the good, bad, and the ugly. Is that right?
I think I've been saying that since we started laying out the bill.
You may be saying it up at the front mic when you're trying to get the rest of us to vote on it, but it's not what your amendment says, and it's not what your bill says. Representative Toth, you're putting restrictions about how we can talk about race. If we talk about race in a civics classroom, we've got to say that the founders didn't mean it. It was an innocent mistake. It doesn't live up. It's not part of our authentic principles. Would you be open to an amendment requiring that in civics classrooms we teach the history of racism and white supremacy, and that we teach our students that it's morally wrong? Would you be open to something like that?
We already are teaching that. We should teach that. And throughout this document, it talks about the fact that slavery existed and that it was wrong and that it was evil.
And so you'd be open to an amendment?
No, I'm not open to an amendment.
You're not open to an amendment condemning white supremacy in our civics classrooms? This is a simple question, Mr. Toth. Are you open to an amendment condemning white supremacy in our civics classrooms?
White supremacy, in what context would you like to discuss it?
Mr. Toth, it's troubling that you're having to ask a clarifying question. It's an easy yes. If we're trying to condemn white supremacy and its role in American history, you shouldn't have to quibble over a definition,
If you're going to say that white
Mr.
supremacy is systemic in the United States today, is that what you're trying to say? Is that I want to understand what you want for your amendment to do?
I would like our amendment to teach the history of white supremacy in the history of our country and teach students that it is morally wrong. That's all I want to do.
Slavery, in the history of slavery, is immoral and wrong. And we need to continue to say that.
And so the role that white supremacy played in the founding of our country, we should condemn that. Take your time.
Representative, if you'll work with Mr. Kane, we'll look at something. How's that?
I think it should be easy to commit to this on the front mic, but I'd be happy to work on some language.
Gentleman's time's expired.